SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. It's this beautiful Monday, starting of a good week, and we are happy to be here, you on the other side, and we know we are part of this program. Not just watching, but also part of the conversation. Here on SOUQ Pulse, we not just deliberate, we put it to you just like you're putting it to us. We tell you, don't keep quiet. You see things, be it policies, you see things, be it businesses that are going down, you see it things, be it loans that look fishy, and we just tell ourselves, let's talk. Let's ask ourselves some questions. Can we really feel the pulse of things moving forward? Is food better on the tables, or are they getting off the tables? Are African nations faring well? How are we looking at Asia and trading better? How is Europe, the West, that particular bloc, this race they are on, are we considered? Do they even look at us as a market, or are we seeing them as competitors? Is SOUQ Pulse where we talk and ask ourselves some very good questions. My name is Chuks, John-Rogers Chuks, and I'm glad to have you once again on a beautiful Monday on SOUQ Pulse. When we return, we will tell you what we are talking about today. It's putting smiles on my face because, yes, it also puts smiles on your face when you look in the mirror and get to see yourself. So don't go anywhere. SOUQ Pulse, we'll be right back.
Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodu Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the eco-greeting tradition. The three wise men, Arometa, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Yes, welcome back to SOUQ Pulse. Today on SOUQ Pulse, we are looking at something that is universal. It's not just peculiar to Africa alone, but hey, let's start our charity from here before he steps out of the door. We are looking at corruption, and we are asking ourselves, who are the enablers of corruption? Once we look at this particular coinage, the first thing that comes to your mind is the president, the governors, the senators, the House of Rep, those bank EDs, those bank CEOs, those big people in civil service. That is what you look at. Nobody ever looks at themselves. So today we are asking ourselves this particular question. Of all these people that came to your mind, who is helping them? The president cannot take $1 billion by himself, for himself, and take it to his father's house. It's not possible. He has to put it somewhere. Somebody has to sign something. Somebody has to move something. If the president decides today that there is no corruption in Africa today, somebody has to go somewhere and fight something and make sure something doesn't work and frustrate a policy. So who are these people that enable this corruption in the first place to happen? Now, take that particular mirror, and if it's possible, I'm not saying put it in front of you, but just put it somewhere where you can walk past, then look at the mirror. Let's now start asking ourselves these strict questions. The first things people say, okay, bank, yes. Illicit financial flow will move through banks, depending. People will say foreign account, yes. Those same countries that are telling us that we are corrupt. Where are these monies kept? So who is enabling what? People will say real estate, yes. Those same big names nobody is calling, be it in Nigeria, in Dubai, in London, in Paris, in Italy. Where are these monies coming from? Now, let's now start this talk. You know, it's still Chuks. And I have with me, he's the last person that I've just returned to Nigeria. And we are holding him down. We are happy to tell you that our guests and our in-house, not just guests, analysts, not just that, but our in-house teacher is back. And Dr. Idahosa, I am pleased to welcome you back to this same hot seat. And I want to see the way you roll out again. You're welcome, sir.
You know, I just learned that you have become one of those learned professionals who put it to you. So okay. Now that you have put it to me, I don't think I have something to say, but it's always good to be back home. Like they say, can travel around the whole world, home remains home.
Yes, home is where the heart is.
And I want to say sincerely on earth this evening that there is no place on earth like Nigeria. That's the best country God ever created on this planet Earth.
Okay. So for every one of us that are planning to japa, no matter how far you japa, your mind is still here. Home is where the heart is. So now let's start asking ourselves this question. Who is enabling corruption in Africa, starting from Nigeria? So, sir, when we ask this question, who do you see in the mirror?
Well, fundamentally, I have some challenge when it comes to definition of concepts. What actually do we call corruption? And in whose language are we seeing the meaning of corruption? Because this is also fundamental to some of the issues that are being highlighted in the conversation around fighting corruption, especially in Africa. Because what comes to mind is the fact that there are certain ways that Africans, we are familiar with. There's our culture that defines how we live, how we socialize, and how we interact with a few things. Let me just give you this simple background. You see, the educational system of the African, for example, was not designed in such a way to accommodate every Dick and Harry. Every family has their own internal system of keeping wealth, knowledge within their space, which of course they are willing to trade with other people for the things that they don't have. Now, this is a fundamental practice in African culture. And that's why when you examine very closely the African philosophy, the wise sayings in Africa, you find rooted in this saying this desire and appeal to help yourself and protect your family.
When you say help yourself, can you define help yourself?
Now what this means is that in a way, the African family takes itself as priority over every other family.
The African family.
Family.
Okay.
So if you're a father or you're a son, you who is a father don't want your inheritance to go into the hand of another man.
It has to go to
you have it come to your son.
Okay. Who will have it
will
go
have
to
to
his
preserve
son.
it.
Okay.
And if incidentally, for example, in some cultures, you can find that also in Nigeria, where it was difficult for a man to raise a son to inherit him, he will have to allow, if he has a daughter, to stay at home in his own house, and a man will come and marry that daughter in the house and raise children
in the house.
In the house.
Okay.
So that
carrying on the family name.
Family name, so that this wealth and inheritance do not go elsewhere. Why do I need to take you around this route? Because some of the fundamental things that we call corruption today are this inherent system of the Africa trying to favor their own. Now, and this is what we see and we call by the name corruption. And this is why definition of concepts are quite important when we have to understand the philosophy and the psychology behind certain actions of humans.
Of certain humans. Now you took us to Africa, you took us to culture, you took us to tradition. Now let's go back to that same tradition. Now let me talk from the tradition, a few of the tradition that I know of. The concept and word corruption is not in our language.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making.
It's not in African language. It's either you are a thief or you are not a thief.
A thief, yes.
Good. So if I go by with this logic you have just proved now, except if I am wrong, which means families are prone to thievery.
No, not thievery. Not thievery. Thievery is forbidden in Africa.
Okay, 100%.
Forbidden in Africa. You know, recently I listened.
But corruption, if we go by its
no,
stealing.
We will come to that. Stealing or thievery, whatever it is, we will come to that. You know, let me give you one very scenario. Simon Sinek, one of the acclaimed global leaders today who teaches and coaches on leadership, said something recently which was so profound to me. And he talks about transformational leadership. And he said, anytime we walk in a space and we find people who are not delivering value the way we want, what we quickly do is to drive those people away. And he said, take these people as your children.
Okay.
Now, if your child is not doing well, do you just send that child away?
No, definitely you don't.
Definitely you will not. You have to put measures in place to ensure that that child is where you want that child to be.
Good.
So you may have to take some extra measure.
Okay, to get the child to perform better.
To perform.
Okay.
Where
but if this child should put his or her hand in the communal pot,
they will cut the hand.
Oh, they will cut the hand.
Oh yes, because that's different. So they don't want that child to steal, and they don't want that child to take what does not belong to him or her. So these virtues are here. And that is why PPAK did a very fundamental, profound work on this same issue, why there is corruption in Africa. And he propounded a theory, he called the theory
can we, since you started,
of two publics.
Hold on. Since you started this particular lecture, going back to tradition and history and culture, can we just remove the word corruption and start using Tiffany?
Well, I don't have a problem with it, but that's why I said, of course, let's start using Tiffany
and leave corruption.
It's a problem of meaning. I love the work done by Kevin Vaunza. It's a theological work. He calls it, is there a meaning in this text? Which, of course, had to look at this age-long challenge of assigning meanings or know the locus of meaning within a given statement. But this is what it is. So when PPAK propounded that theory of the two publics, he said, for example, in Africa, the big problem is the fact that the African man accepting the state as his own was a big problem. Because in Africa, he identified two publics, the primordial public and the civic public. Now, in the primordial public is an anathema for somebody to steal.
Okay, 100%.
So, you cannot steal from what belongs
to the community.
To that community. But that same loyalty and patriotism is not transferred
from the
primordial to the civic. Because the people in the third world have not been able to actually accept the institution of the state as their own. And this is...
Now, the question again we need to ask, has the state accepted the people as part of the state?
Yeah, but it is that dichotomy between the primordial public and the civic public, that tension.
Now, we are going
is what really the problem is.
We are going to intellectual. Let's calm down a bit. Now, let's still follow that line of thought of taking from what belongs to the community and now leaving the community and going to the larger society. Now, for somebody to go to, let's say, a public farm and harvest cassava of, let's say, five bags or 5 sacks, he can't carry it alone. It's not possible.
But
somebody somehow needs to help, either in harvesting. Somebody
yeah.
somehow needs to help in moving it.
Oh, yes.
Somebody somehow needs to help.
You see,
keeping it.
You see,
these are the people we are looking for.
No. Before we get to the people we are looking for in terms of aiding, there's a whole lot of theorization around corruption issues. Take for example,
when we get to corruption itself, we can now deal with that.
Yes, but let's look at ourselves in the mirror. Yes, the point I'm trying to make is the fact that, see, within the primordial setting, if you are seen in a farm trying to take cassava
that your father did not
that your father or you yourself did not plant, even if it is your father's farm,
and he did not send you,
and you are seen there, you are in soup. Yes, of course, this is the environment where we find ourselves, because these things we're speaking to, they are hugely cultural. And that's why you see, for example, in the West, if you see a movement, somebody move here, somebody move there, move there, move there, the people who live in the neighborhood will quickly have to alert
the authorities
and say, look, we are seeing strange movement here. Now, within the state structure in Nigeria, for example, if you see such movement, it don't concern you really.
No ownership.
No ownership. Because this system we're talking about has not been able to actually recognize the legitimacy of the civil public. So, like they say in your language, is Iloibo. We say it is white man's work. So this is the concept. So before you are thinking of who is helping to carry cassava, you must understand the psychology of the person who is uprooting and the person who is helping to carry. So, and until you are able to actually unravel this mystery, we cannot deal with a whole lot of problems we are facing in Africa.
Okay, now, before we start looking at demystifying things that we did not create, let's start directly calling out these things. Why am I saying this? It's easy. It's the easiest thing to do to point hands, point a finger. That's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing to say my state governor or the governors that have passed through this state or this president that have passed through this place in the past 8 years didn't perform, they did this, they did that. That's the easiest thing to do. But have you asked yourself, if your uncle or your father or your auntie or even you yourself, you were part in making sure that that particular job that was supposed to be carried out, that contract that was passing through your street, or those people that came to set up the factory in your own home and you were sitting down and making sure that work didn't go on, asking for development levy. Yes, you heard me right. Or those particular school that was supposed to get built and you are asking that your community should be settled first. You don't think that is corruption. It's until it gets to the level of the president, it's called corruption. Or you're looking at the bank guys that at the end of the day, the book is always balanced, but you don't know where the money is coming from. They send you somewhere, you come back and yes, the book is balanced, but you don't know where the money is coming from. Now, we've talked a whole lot about Africa. You've tried educating and confusing me on what is an acceptability of the whole.
Yeah, but it's a debate that we must have to have. Now, until we have this debate.
This particular debate is not just we having it. It's also making sure that the states accept everyone within the boundaries as equals.
Yes, but this is the problem. And this is where the whole gamut of what we are facing, even when it's security issues. I was speaking with a very senior officer in Abuja on Friday, and I was saying to them, in terms of dealing with the issue of security, for example, in Nigeria, and I said to him, you see, we cannot rely on the state structure to fight criminality in Nigeria.
That's not possible.
So
it has failed for
the reason,
from time immemorial to
yes,
date.
The reason why it is failing is the real issues that I'm saying to you. And I said to the guy, you see, if, for example, you make me the Minister for Defense today, and I'm going to change the whole architecture around security, how am I going to do this? And I said to him, in every community, we know the bad boys.
Of course, yes.
And so what the traditional community had done is to know that you are the bad boy, you are the thief. If they give something to a thief to hold, that thing cannot be missing.
It depends on the thief.
Oh, yes. You see, everybody...
Both the thing and the thief can get missing.
No.
You've not looked at it from that angle.
So if you give something to a thief to hold, you know, tendency is that he is going to be sure that nobody outsmart him. Now, the point is that because within the local, everybody know each person. And we know who are natural suspects. And so if certain thing happen, the community understand and say, look, who is the number one suspect? They say, that's him. Because they know. And if we are going to deal with this issue of security, we must have to look at it from that perspective, for example. So the same is what I'm speaking to about corruption. Because when you are adopting a system,
I hope you end with enablers of corruption.
Yes.
Okay.
When you are adopting a system which is wholly alien to you, and of course, you have destroyed, what is it called? The fabric the whole society together and impose a structure without foundation, what you see happen is there'll be a crumbling of that structure. Let me start from where I stopped to talk about the enablers of this corruption.
Okay.
Now, there's what they call the fraud triangle. When there's a pressure somewhere, and then, of course, you also see that there's an opportunity. And then, of course, you can rationalize the consequences of corruption or stealing or thievery, whatever name you will choose to give to it. You will find that chances are that such a person will naturally have to commit that crime. Take, for example, I live in
Must there be a pressure?
Oh, there's always a pressure. For corruption to happen, there's always a pressure.
Pressure on the thief or pressure on who exactly?
Pressure on the thief.
What sort of pressure?
Now, the pressure are different.
Okay.
Now, one of the pressure we have today, for example, we are dealing with the challenge of inferiority complex.
On whose side?
On our own side as a people.
Hold on to this thought of inferiority complex, because when we return from the break, we are going to call out these enablers in whatever form they are going to max. We're going on a break, and hey, don't go anywhere. This is still SOUQ Pulse. We'll be right back.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Hello and welcome back to SOUQ Pulse. We are here and we are still looking at the enablers of corruption. Yes, who is helping those particular people, in quotes, that you say they are corrupt? Somebody somewhere is helping them. And we've been lectured in the first half of this particular program. So this time around, like I said, we'll get down to basis. 88.4 billion is stolen. I'm not just going to use the word corruption. It's stolen. More than that, out of sub-Saharan Africa alone, not even the whole sub-Saharan Africa, annually. You now ask yourself, what exactly is in the head of these people, then those that are enabling this circle to keep going on? People are making sure things don't work. And the whole is suffering it while a few is getting this done. The whole is suffering it while a few is giving every other person a bad name. Now, this is another issue. Those that are even giving you the bad name, where is the money going to in the first place? Where is the money being stolen to? Where is the money kept? So they are also enablers in my own view.
Well, for me, and I think that is the argument I want to maintain. A lot of people do things without necessarily knowing exactly what they are doing, because the prism through which they see their act is different from the prism you are using. And if we don't get that right, we can pontificate all we care, but we will still not be able to actually design a system to drain the swamp so that the alligator can fly away themselves. We will be fighting alligators in the swamp. And when you take that wall to that territory, you can never win it. This is what we need to talk about. Yes, the figures are staggering. The figure, they look huge. I grew up in a community to know that our parents were marrying so many wives, not because they loved the pleasure of sex.
Somebody has to work in the farm.
Oh yes, it's to build wealth and empire. You see, if you don't understand these fundamental basics, you will be chasing shadow. And this is what we've been doing with policy design.
Okay, are you telling me to go? Okay, I didn't go there. So now, let's look at...
So the critical issue here is the fact that you have a civil service. Today we are talking about minimum wage of 30,000 naira.
Okay.
That you are paying to somebody to come to work.
You are getting close, okay.
Every day, 25 days in 30 days.
Okay.
And this guy, who you are paying 30,000, we have to buy a liter of kerosene to lit his lantern. I'm not even talking about cooking stove, because you can still get wood from the bush. At 1,500 per liter of kerosene, this man will have to buy a small rubber pen of gari at 2,700. This man will have to buy a small cup of rice at 7,000. Beans, fish, meat, call it whatever thing, to be able to eat for 30 days.
And come to the work.
And come to work and deliver value to you that will build the economy. And then he will see the money stack in a place and allow it to rest, so that he himself can go and rest in peace. Knowing that after doing this work for 30 years, there's no guarantee for home, no guarantee for life after work, which state has provided. This is why I'm trying to lay the foundations so that we understand what we're talking about. In my own community, so as I was growing up,
this foundation is foundation why the corruption itself is there.
It's thriving. Because you look at it, in my community, when a young man gets to the age of 22, maximum, if the man has not been able to bring a woman home, the community people will say, come, you are no longer a boy, you need to marry.
22.
And they will marry for you. Now, while they are marrying for you, they are also thinking that you are not going to marry and be living in your father's house. The community will gather together to build a hut for you where you are going to live with your wife.
Are they still practicing that?
Now, these are all dead.
Okay.
So, not just that, they have to give you seed yams to start your farm so that you can feed your family and show you a portion of the bush where you will need to do the farm. Now, this is the school system in the traditional African system. So in that case, people would not be saying, oh, if I get old, where I'm going to stay is not a problem, because the community were coming together. This is what you call council houses in the UK, where people who are finished working, they can walk into a council house and they sleep and they rest and there's no problem. So people will be moved by conscience. It's not to say that in that community those days, you didn't have people who were doing these things we're talking about, thievery, stealing, and all that. But the community could sanction these people heavily because they have been provided for, but laziness will not allow them to do some certain thing that they were supposed to do to prove that they were men. Now, the state structure that you have is designed in such a way that you don't even have a life and a future. And then you're seeing this thing passing through you. And so, it's the story we read in the Bible of the children of Eli. Give us, or we will take it by force. This is a problem. This is the breeding ground for corruption in most African states. So we are going to look at a state structure that is gathering people to call them in the name of work, but actually is not meeting our things that is enough for these people to live. And therefore, they have the privilege of looking or surviving,
accessing the commonwealth.
The commonwealth of the people, so they don't have anything but to take it
and scooping for themselves.
And scoop for themselves.
Now you are speaking on behalf of those employed within the confines of the government.
Government, yes.
Okay, now good. Now, what about those that are holding people's hard-earned money? Banks, insurance companies, pension companies, those in politics. This same analogy, will it apply to them?
Oh, no. Yes, because these are same institutions of state. Banks are creation of government.
Hold on. The banks are paid well. Like I said earlier on, let's leave who is doing the stealing and let's look at ourselves in the mirror and say, who is assisting this person doing the stealing? The day we'll decide to take the person doing the stealing and put him on the podium, then we'll know that, yes, we're putting this group of us on the stadium. If I say this person and take myself out of the picture.
One of the things that I want you to take away from this program this evening, because you just drag in the private sector, in quotes, and if you look at the system right now, the only private sector today seems to be the bank, really. Because manufacturing are closing down. And the only people who are making this money is the banks. And if you look...
Making money with people's money.
Not really people's money. They're actually making money with the Commonwealth.
Making money with people's money?
No, not individual persons, but the Commonwealth. So what you have is that they connect between the CEO and the governors and the ministers, and in some cases the head of state. In some of all these African countries, is the kind of work that you are seeing with the commercial banking sector. If the banks in Nigeria were to do proper banking, which is the commercial bank, as it is practiced elsewhere, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in America, whether it's in Asia, you will see that the kind of opulence that you are seeing around bank CEOs, chairman, EDs, will not be there. Because a bank will have to work out a system of generating. So you have places where banks have farms. You have places where banks are investing hard-earned resources in production, manufacturing sector, to be able to translate the deposit of people into wealth creation. So, but that is not happening here, because it's just a call away from governor, And when they bring in the allocation for the month, you keep it in the bank and you turn it over, 2 charges on it, and you make some plenty of money. So that is why you find that the states, for example, today, remain the bigger sharer of resources. And if states and banks are not aligning, some of all these issues that we're talking about can really not survive or work hard. This is the issue. So we have a lot of aiders and abettors within the system.
Can you start calling out those aiders and abettors? Let's see if my name is there.
But you know that your name is there.
And let me know exactly where I'm playing. Let me know the field where I'm playing.
Yeah,
it's possible that my return has not been given to me. So let me know.
Yeah, but this is the point. We have those in the banks who are benefiting from the system. We have top civil servants who are benefiting from this system. We have political leaders who are benefiting from this system. We have religious leaders who are benefiting from this system. We remember there was a story told in this environment some years back of a certain man who had to steal company's property to donate to a church.
No, now, hold on. When he didn't just steal the company property. If you want to call the man's name, tell me, I can write it out for you. He didn't just steal the company property. I am asking, when he stole the company property, he didn't go there to drive it by himself. He didn't disconnect it by himself. He didn't move it by himself. People were aware that this was happening, and people either got paid or got some allowance somehow to help and aid him get this done. These are the people I am looking at. When we come for this particular people, who now people say, okay, good. Now let us put ourselves on the altar and say, where are we? But now we are looking at how is this monies, be it small, be it big, who is helping move, who is keeping, who is recording, who is making sure that we can't trace them, who is playing, no matter the role, be it the lawyers, be it the administrators, be it the corporate bodies, be it those particular estate people, where and who and what are we playing
This is the point that I'm saying to you. And this is, for me, they are really quite fundamental. And if we don't understand these fundamentals, you see, we can be pontificating.
Let's leave the. No, no.
This is the point I'm making.
You will make very good, valid points.
You see, the Chinese built a wall round its empire to forestall invasion.
Okay.
In 100 years, the story is told that China was invaded twice. And the enemy that came in through the gates where the Chinese soldiers were waiting. Because you kept them in the gate, hungry, they took things from the enemy and they allowed them enter and invade the city. If you study the story of the Bolshevik Revolution, in 1905, the army of the Tsar were working and advancing against Germany. And of course, the source of supply were cut, the army were not well maintained, they were hungry, and at the middle of the war, they asked themselves, look, why are we really protecting this Tsar? Who is our enemy? Is it the German or the Tsar himself? The soldier did a U-turn and came back and overthrew the Tsar and created some lacuna within the system, which of course afforded Lenin the opportunity to take advantage of that insurrection and establish the Bolshevik Revolution. Now, when you look at this system, what do you find? You find one trait. The same men that you are maltreating and you are making hungry, and they are trying to redefine themselves. And these terms of redefinition is where the problem is. So what the Chinese do, the Chinese became open to communism. That was why when Mao Zedong came and was talking about communism in the 1940s, it made a lot of sense to people that to say, okay, we need to care for our people, irrespective of what they are working on, what they are contributing, that everybody can attain to that level where we maintain a common life among people. That also you find, of course, with the Bolshevik, of course, which eventually translated to socialism and communism in Russia. Now, the point I'm making here is simple.
Can I slow you down a bit?
No. Just let me land on this point.
Which of
Let me just land on this point. Okay. So, this is the challenge that faces us. Take, for example.
Okay, no.
Now, we have, for example, in Nigeria.
You've almost landed.
No, I have not landed.
Now you want to land.
No, let me make this point. We have, for example, in Nigeria, today, when banks are recruiting, they go to UK to recruit our children. When government are looking for technocrats, they go to people who went to Harvard, not people who went to University of Ibadan or people who went to Ife. Now there is a rat race to get our children into Harvard so that they can also have the benefit of being given employment within their own states. Now, you can use your civil servant salary to fund your child education in Harvard or in Cambridge. So where do you get the extra from? It will come from corruption. So the aiding and abetting is designed because the way the system today is created is actually the one that is giving us away. So if you don't have value for the things that you have here, that until I go to Harvard or Cambridge or go to Oxford, I cannot be the governor of my people because I went to a local school. So everybody is taking their children to those places, even when they don't have the means. This is the greatest enabler and motivator for corruption.
How many of our governors are diseducated? If we go by this last principle, how many of our governors went to Harvard or went to Yale or went to Oxford or went to Cambridge? How many of them can? I'm not throwing shades at them, but now let's bring this home. Thank you very much for the good studies. Thank you very much for taking us to school. I want to bring this particular example you gave some time ago. A particular person almost sold us away on an oil deal that went to court. That Nigeria went to court. Thank God we won, and that particular set of billions we kept and didn't pay. But one person, how much was he promised, or how much was the person given? One person. Are we going to say what sort of pressure is that person? These are things we are looking at. Till tomorrow, different countries keep giving us back Abacha loot.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a birthday. Next tomorrow is remembrance. The day after is this. People assisted and aided that particular movement.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
The country that kept that money, the same countries are keeping a whole lot that nobody's talking about.
Oh yes.
These are all enablers of corruption.
Yeah, but because what you're saying is that this country has created an ecosystem
of criminality.
Yes, of course, you see, because they are actually feeding on you. Because they are poorer than you.
UK is poorer than Nigeria.
Oh, yes.
France is poorer than Nigeria.
Oh, yes.
Cayman Island is poorer than Nigeria.
They are poorer than us.
Switzerland
They are poorer than us.
But they are taking care of their people.
Yes, of course. No, because they actually designed a system to take from you to make their citizen great. This is the point I'm making, and this is the great African philosophy that, for example, in my village, they call the people's name. They say it's a goma. What that means is that when you are digging hole, the sand, you put it under your legs. You don't scatter it. Your child cannot be, or your family person cannot be on top of the apple tree, and then you are down, eating the one that is unripe. Now, all of what this system is that we design a system to ensure that our families get the best. Okay. Now, the inventor of this new system...
We are running out of time. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the very beginning of this particular program today. You made a reference of having two systems, whereby the communal system is well protected and well respected, and anyone that goes against the laws of that particular communal system knows that there's a punishment waiting for him or her. You can steal what belongs to the community. Now, how can we as a nation get that communal system working as a nation? Even if it can be as a nation, it could be groups within the nation.
You see, this is a point I made the other day on this show. That the African intellectuals need to really sit down and we have to examine our system. Earlier this morning, I was talking about even America itself, who are the original inventor of democracy, to begin to think about going back to the value that built their society in the first place, which was capitalism, which enabled people to actually work until this social democratic movement came, where people feel that government can be everything to everybody, and therefore government is carrying so much burden and there's so much debt everywhere and the economy is getting out of manage. This is the challenge we're having because we are destroying the systems that will really make things to work fine for us. So the communal system itself has also been corrupted in such a way that our parents were told that the only way for us to have a good life was to go to school and become clerks. And many of us have left our homes. And this is actually a shame. You need to go, for example, to the US and see the white community and the black community, the way we live. When they talk about abortions, who are involved? They are the blacks. When they talk about gun battles, who are involved? They are the blacks, most of the time, or colored people. Why? Because there's an orientation of moving you out of your cultural setting and throwing you into a culture that is just strange to you.
But we should take responsibility for it.
This is why I started saying on this show today that the starting point of this conversation is to have a working definition for what corruption means, given our local setting. And this will help us to be able to situate whatever argument that we have and see why those who are the enablers, in quote, are doing what they are doing. Why we have to struggle and kill ourselves, that until we get to UK, we are not citizens at all. That you are seeing people who are living good jobs in Nigeria and going to become shop attendants in the UK, all in the name of Jackpa. Okay. So these are the...
We need to round up like now.
These are the issues that confront us.
I agree. But back to the definition. Now, it's an agreed fact. There is no word called corruption in my local dialect. And I've also tried searching other dialects. There are no word called corruption. So either you're a thief or you're a thief.
Yes.
No two ways about that.
Oh, yeah.
So we are looking at who have assisted thieves and still assist thieves. And we'll make it straight.
And anybody who assist a thief is a thief.
All thieves are thieves. There are no two ways about it. Be you in the civil service, be you a bank CEO, MD, be you someone that is taking money from another country and taking it overseas, all those offshore accounts that you can't account for, be it shell companies, every one of them, even the companies that are holding it, we should start holding ourselves accountable. Now you know what the mirror looks like. We've been taking through diverse classes. At some point, I had to ask myself, are we still talking about enablers? But hey, we say thank you very much for the schooling. Thank you very much for having
We must drain
you back.
The swamp so that the alligators can run away.
This swamp and alligators, let's leave it for another day. Because we'll have a special day for that swamp and these alligators. And on that particular note, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much, sir. I'm grateful. And to our viewers, you are everything we want as a viewer. I will say thank you. We'll do this again tomorrow being Tuesday, and don't go anywhere. It's 4 o'clock. Normal programming will always resume by 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. You have early exchange, then you have market insights. And you will have the news by 12 and by 3. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Bye.